Hi, so in today's video I'm going to try and use a couple of designs that are already in ScanNCut canvas but turn them into something else. So the first thing that I'm going to look for is this pattern that's already in the Canvas Projects Winter Fabric Board. I'm going to select that. I'm going to open it by, when you hover over it, clicking on the first purple box on the left and say OK, and let it bring that design onto my page. Now I'm going to select it and it's all grouped. So I'm going to right click and ungroup, and it's this snowflake that I want. So I'm going to select everything else and delete it. Put the snowflake on my page. I'm going to give it a name up here. Just going to call it Snowflake, and I'm going to save it and say OK. Now I'm going to go back to Canvas and go back to the Canvas Projects. And then this time I'm going to scroll down and find the next pattern that I want to use. And I want to do something with this one here that's called Lampshade. So I'm going to click on it, and you can see it's got various mats. If you scroll along, there's an A, B, C, and then if you hit the arrow, there's a D. So what I'm going to do with this one, I'm going to come down here and say download all parts. And that's going to drop that folder with all those parts onto my computer. And it's here. Is go back up here and create a new blank page. I'm going to choose SVG up here, and where it says choose file, I'm going to navigate to where I've just saved that folder. And you can see here there's a picture of it, and there's an A, B, C and D. I'm going to select A and hit choose and then say OK. OK, now I'm going to go back to SVG and choose C. I have had a look at this. I've already got it downloaded. I think it's A and C that I want to use. Yeah, so I've got a panel and this section here. Then I'm going to come back to my projects, and then I'm going to find the snowflake that I just saved. So there's my snowflake. So I've got my three elements. So I'm going to move these two out of the way for now. I'm not going to resize anything at this stage. I'm just going to work with the file as it is at the moment. So I'm going to right click, and I can see that I've got an ungroup option. So I'm going to ungroup, and then I'm just going to left click anywhere on the page to deselect, and I'm going to see what we've got. So this section here all appears to be individual bits, and the dotted line seems to be individual bits, so I don't want them, so I'm going to get rid of those. So I'm going to drag an imaginary box around them and hit the delete key on my keyboard. And I'm going to bring this back in now. So now I'm going to go back to my basic shapes. I'm going to grab a rectangle, and I'm going to hold the shift key down on my keyboard and rotate the rectangle twice. That keeps it perfectly in line without going wobbly or anything. I'm going to drag a rectangle out. Let's see what we can. Make this about 4 inches wide and we'll make it about 6.5 inches high. And I'm just going to position it by eye centrally. Now it's not centrally between this line and this line because obviously there was a fold down here, and I think this is how you stick all your panels together. So I'll just zoom in. I'm centralizing it between this line and this point down here, this imaginary point down here, because this will be a glue tab. So I'm just going to bring it down. Now I'm going to come back to the basic shapes and just grab a square or something for now. And I don't want these like leg things on the bottom. So I'm going to position this above, and so it goes over there. I'm going to select this rectangle and the main body of this lantern, and I'm going to go edit, subtract, and that should chop the bottom off. So I've got a nice straight bottom. I'm just going to select the main rectangle and send it to the back so that I can work with this one for now. So I think that that looks okay. Bring it down a little bit more. So with the small rectangle on top, I'm going to hold my shift key and then click on the big lantern panel. And I'm going to go edit, subtract, and that's going to punch this rectangle out of that panel. So now this is all one piece. Now I'm going to come to the snowflake and I'm going to size it down. It's about 3¼ inches high at the moment, so I'm going to take it down to about 2.5, something like that. I'm just lining it up centrally to this gap, just by eye, and then I'm going to hit the D key on my keyboard 2 more times to make 2 duplicates. I'll just move this out of the way for now. So what I'm trying to do now is line them up so that they overlap. I'm going to select all 3, go edit, align, center, so they all line up together, and I'm just going to make them a group for a minute. I'm going to bring this back in and then position them again centrally in here. And then I'm just going to ungroup them because I want to create a duplicate. So now I'm thinking that I'm going to put a couple on either side. So I think what I'll do, I'm going to get another square. I'm going to chop this snowflake in half. So select both, edit, subtract. So now I've got a half a snowflake, which can go over here. And I'm just going to zoom in. So what I'm trying to do is overlap it on this edge, but make sure it's touching here. I'm going to create a duplicate, bring the duplicate down and put that one so it touches these 2. And again, so it overlaps. Just going to zoom back to the mat. Then I'm going to select one of them and hit duplicate, hold my shift key down and rotate it so it's the opposite way. And then I'm going to do the same on this side. So I'm going to line these up so that they overlap the main snowflakes, but it also overlaps this inner edge, and create another duplicate and do the same. And then before I do anything, I'm just going to create another duplicate of the main snowflake. Now, if you want to be absolutely precise, you can select this one on the edge, hold your shift key down and select that one, and then go edit, align, top or bottom. and that will line those two up, and then do the same on the bottom two. Select one, hold your shift key down, select the other one, and then choose top or bottom, whichever way you want. So this one on this side lines up with this one, and this one lines up with this one. They're all touching, hopefully. So now I'm going to select everything and go edit and weld, and hopefully they will all weld together. And they have done. And you can see where they've all welded, where they were all overlapped. So that's now my panel. So I'm going to come to the path icon. I'm going to come up here where the original dash line was, select once, let go of my mouse, press the shift key down and drag my mouse out, and then double click to anchor it. And I'm going to put a new dash line in that is all one dash line. And then I'm going to come back to the path icon, select it and do the same up here. So come up to this corner where the original one was, click once, let go of my mouse, press my shift key down, drag my mouse out to the bottom and double click to anchor it. And again, while it's selected, make it a cut line and make it a dash line. Now I'm going to select everything, right click and group. So that's now one panel of my lantern. Now let's have a look at this. I want to put a base on it and a lid on it. So I'm going to use this now and alter this. So again, I've got it selected. I'm going to right click, I'm going to ungroup. Now I did have a look at the video for how to put this together, and this top and bottom fits inside the lantern, but I want my lantern, when it's all put together as a cube, to sit inside this. So this is going to be on the outside of my lantern. So the first thing I'm going to do is grab this out of the way, and I've got all bits again. I'm going to delete these bits because I don't want this pattern. I'm going to drag an imaginary box around all the dashed lines and right click and make them a group to see how big it is. And it's 5.49. I'm going to resize it by about 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to make my inner dash line 5.61, but I'm going to get rid of this because this is all in bits. So I'm going to get a square, I'm going to come up to the properties box with it selected, and I'm in one of the boxes I'm going to put 5.61 and enter. Then I'm going to come down to cut line and dash line, and that makes me one complete dash line rather than all those tiny little bits that was in the original design. Now I'm going to see how big this is. This is 6.55. Again, I'm going to make it 1/8 of an inch bigger. So I'm going to make it 6.67. But I don't want to use this because it's got cutouts. So I'm going to delete it. I'm going to grab a square. I'm going to go to the properties box. I'm going to make it 6.67 and say enter. And this one, I just want to be a straight cut line. So now I'm going to select both, go edit, center, edit, middle, and edit group. And I'm going to create a duplicate. So I'm going to hit the D key on my keyboard. So this one's going to be my base and this one's going to be my lid. And I'm thinking that I'm going to put a snowflake in the top of the lid. So I'm going to select both, go edit, center, edit, middle. And then I'm just going to right click and ungroup. And all as I want is the outside square and the snowflake. Choose the square, hold my shift key down, choose the snowflake and go edit, center, and edit middle. In fact, I'm just going to move the dash line out of the way and just double check I've got everything centered. And then the snowflake's on top, so I'm going to go edit, subtract. And that's punched the snowflake out of my lid. So I'm going to drag my fold lines back in and then centralize these two together now. So that's edit center, edit middle, right click and group. So that's my lid, that's my plain base, and this is my panel. So one last thing I'm going to do, this is quite tall and I'm going to try and get 2 panels from each piece of A4 card. So I'm going to drag a box around everything, go edit center, edit middle. I'm going to right click and make them a group, and I'm going to drag it down. To about 5.5 wide. And then right click and ungroup and just see how big this panel is. This panel's about 5 inches wide. So that will be fine. So now I'm going to save them and download them. Okay, so to save some time, I've cut my 4 panels and I've cut my base and my lid. And what I've done with the panels is, with each one of the glue tabs, I've applied wet glue and stuck it to the next panel along. But just to save some time for the video, on the last panel, I'm using a double-sided adhesive. So you want to glue all your panels together, and then you want some glue on the front side of your right hand tab, because that's going to be where it's all going to stick together. These bits on the top I've pre-folded, and I've applied some double-sided tape just to save some time. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to fold each one of the first 3 in, but I'm going to leave the last one until I've stuck the side on. And then I'm going to fold that over to give it a little bit more reinforcement. What I've also done is cut 4 pieces of vellum which measure 6 by 4 inches, and I've glued them on to the back of the lantern. Just to save some time really, so the video is not going on forever and ever. In fact, I'm going to turn it this way. So I'm going to fold this in. I'm just going to remove this last piece of double-sided sticky tape. And I'm going to bring the last panel over so it all lines up. So that's how it's looking now. And this is the last piece. I'm just going to take this off. And fold that in, because this is the glued flap. So I'm going to fold this in, and this will hold that down. It will just give it a little bit more stability. So that's how it's looking now. So what I'm going to do now, I've got the base, and again, to save some time, I've folded on the dash lines that I made in canvas. And using a pair of scissors, I'm going to cut up each corner to where the 2 lots of fold lines meet. And I'm going to turn it around and do the opposite. So these are going to be our glue tabs. And then I'm just going to fold in the big panel, and I'm just going to take a little slither off each of the inside sections. So fold this one in, so you've just got your flaps. and a tiny little angle cut. And don't even know if you can see that's how small I'm taking off. So then you want to fold in your tabs and glue your 4 corners together. So I'm going to do that on the base and the top. And you might need to hold these for a few seconds until the glue starts to grab. That's the base. This will hopefully sit inside now. Like so. And I will apply some glue all the way around the inside of this base for that to grab onto. But I'll do that later. And I'm just going to put the lid together in exactly the same way. So fold on all your score lines. And then where this score line meets this score line, you cut up on 2 sides, turn it round and cut on the others. There you go, and there it is with your lid on. And obviously you can stick your base in so it's on permanently, or you can leave it loose. Lift your lid off, put your little battery operated tea light in, and there's your little lantern. And there's just a quick look at it with a little flickering battery operated tea light. So I hope you like that project. Please give the video a thumbs up if you did. Don't forget to subscribe if you don't already do so. Please share the video if you can, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.